says about James Casbolt. Okay, that's very weird because John Irwin is kind of taking James Casbolt under his wing. He won't admit that or say that, but you almost get the idea that John Irwin is in contact with James Casbolt right now. Maybe the only person that we know of that probably is. But he adamantly says that James Casbolt is not a super soldier, that most of that stuff is all BS, and John Irwin blames it on Droogs, D-R-O-O-G-S, which I think he's talking about drugs. And John Irwin also says that says that mind control isn't really a thing, but then when I got him nailed on it or cornered on it, he admitted, oh yeah, well there is that kind of mind control, and that James Casbolt is under mind control. So is he under mind control or is he not? You know what I mean? There's something weird going on there, and there is I know there's a relationship between John Irwin and James Casbolt because John Irwin has said there is. He's personally said that he's trying to help James Casbolt, so he must be in contact with him.
I think he was. I mean, I speak to John quite a lot on the mobile about what's going on right now. He said he hasn't heard from him since he got out of prison. But yeah, he does say that he doesn't believe in what he said. He told him to keep away from Miles and said he'd be better off keeping away from Miles than anybody connected to him. So that's probably why he's laid low. I mean, I don't know if they're craftily speaking. I mean, maybe they are speaking. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I do think mind control does exist. I mean, I asked Aquino about that, and he basically, Miles interviewed Aquino, and he's lied that I passed him his phone number. I most certainly did not have his phone number. I had to ask Taj for the email that I found online to pass to Miles Johnson, and he went off and interviewed him, and then I thought after, well, maybe I should interview him as well, but ask him about this monarch mind control, because Miles didn't even bother even bringing it up. So I sent an email and said, I'd like to interview you now, and I want to talk about Monarch. And he said, if you believe in that, you must be mad, and I'm not going to go on your show, so sorry about that. And then he went on to say, if you're talking about when someone is sitting there and somebody turns over a card and they see the red Queen of Hearts, then, and then as he said it, and as I read the words, I really felt a really weird feeling, like a feeling of like ice going through me. And I felt really, really weird, like I'd been dunked in ice. And I rang, I can't remember who I rang, I think it was Taj, who said you should ring Fritz Springmeier. So I rang Fritz Springmeier, and he said, oh, he's deliberately triggered you. And I said, well, what do? I feel really like icy, like inside. And he said, you just say to that part of you, you've done a really good job, stand down now. So I kept saying that over and over again and gradually warmed up. But I mean, I think, I think Aquino's quite a dangerous kind of character that is best stayed away from,
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I, foolishly or not foolishly, of course, you know that I approached him as well after I saw Miles do that interview. And I tried to get an interview with him, and he declined, citing that he didn't, you know the story. He thought me and Bridget were going to try to pull him in that hot tub or something. Of course, he was just joking. But, yeah, and so does Taj live in the United States or in the UK?
Oh, I think he's in America with Sarah, isn't he? I think.
Well, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to him a couple times. We had a pretty civil conversation. It was just on a little something that kind of had to get worked out. And yeah, I just heard you mention his name, and I don't know that much about him. I know he's in the community, and I think he may be an investigator. He's I just don't know that much about him, but he contacted me, and we made an agreement.
Oh, right. Oh, that's good. Yeah. No, I used to talk to him a lot, back in the day, and so he just said to me to ring Fritz, and I think that was quite good actually, just because, something was triggered, just the way he said it, like turn over the card, then you see the red queen of hearts, and it just it was really, really freaky, But all this sort of stuff should be studied, and it's not studied, I think, because of someone like James, God love him, poor man, he's been through a lot, but, he just puts so much stuff out there that is pinches of truth of what happens to people, and yet sort of loads and loads of garbage. So immediately people dismiss that kind of stuff, and it really does need to be looked into. I don't think anybody's really looked into it very well,
Well, let me tell you, I've put out some videos that hadn't really hit it too hard, but just here in the last couple of weeks, and there's I put out a video with a young lady that's had some experience with those things, and it's frighteningly real, but there's just parts that are hard to understand because they go contrary to what we grew up believing. But even your story, the way that you were able to infiltrate these high level, I don't even want to say too much about these people in Ireland and stuff like that, because I know that you're not going to be going back there anytime soon, and there's just aspects of that you were somehow imbued with some type of super capability to infiltrate. And you know what I mean? You were acting almost like with superpowers. You know what I mean?
Well, it was weird because I've always had that ability to psychometrize, which is when you pick up an object and you read about the person or where they've been. You get images when you touch it, and I had the thought when I was in Belfast to go into the Emerald Bar, which is in Dundalk, and it's a pub where nobody's allowed to go. They're a stranger, basically. Even locals, they can't walk in. And I just walked in there, with the cover. I was a journalist, but I was a journalist. And the thoughts were going around my head, well, what if you were a spy? If you were a spy, what would you do next? And I thought to myself, well, I'd go and touch the tables where they sit. And, I'd find out where they sit, and then I'd start touching the tables and pick up the energy there, and, that kind of thing. So I started doing it. And, then later I found out about all this stuff, and then I think, well, was I really picking up the energy there? Was I really there? But that's how that thought control and the mind control stuff works. They make it out like it's your idea, it's your idea to do these things. Like, for instance, I had the idea, you should write a book about the real IRA. And then when the News of the World had a job in Belfast, I was first to put my hand up to say, well, I'll go and do it, because I'd been sort of having these ideas, I should write a book about Northern Ireland. And then, it was like, that's a coincidence, maybe that's meant to be. Next thing you're going off there. And then I started having these dreams about this man who I fell madly in love with. And then my thoughts were, maybe I'll meet the man of my dreams in Northern Ireland. And, in the dreams, it was like he was a real IRA commander. And then I was like, Christine, you should get close to the real IRA. Maybe the guy you were dreaming about will be one of them. Do you know what I mean? And it's really easy to control.
It's like less than a 1 in a million chance, yet it happened. It's like there's almost a Matrix-like aspect to some of this. There's it's like where sometimes it's just, we know that we're human beings and when we have our own volition, but sometimes we're thrown into extraordinary situations and stuff where it almost feels like, in retrospect, not at the time, but in retrospect, that you're like a chess piece being moved around on a board. That's exactly that. In the last couple of weeks. It's weird.
Yeah, and that's what makes me now have an insight into what's going on right now. Because we're not really treated seriously. We are treated like, little chess pieces. And I remember being out in Belfast and just going over there and thinking it was for my own volition, you know, and having these ideas, well, Christine, you're going to write a bestseller. Of course, there was never, you know, a bestseller about the Real IRA. I mean, it wouldn't have sold, but this thought was going around my head, oh, you're doing something really important. But of course, I wasn't doing something really important, but I was probably, now, come to think of it, doing something for someone else's agenda, because that area, the Real IRA were out of control. They were bombing London. That area of Dundalk where those guys were was a no-go area. Yet I was going in there, I was having a sexual relationship with one of them. I was going to his house, I was seeing where his things were. I saw an underground bunker when I was there. Next thing, he was arrested and he went to prison because of stuff found in the underground bunker. And now when I saw it, there was nothing in it. When he showed it to me, in his house, he said, oh, this is where, you know, I hide stuff, whatever, but I don't use it now. But supposedly the police found explosives and machine guns in his bunker. But again, that was, you know, how would they know that it was there? I mean, maybe they picked that up from me. I mean,
absolutely.
Who knows?
And you, Christine, what you did is effing insane. It's beyond insane. James Bond wouldn't have done that in a million years. I mean, there's no amount of courage that can even account for that. I mean, that was brave, you know, and it's just weird, you know, how...
yeah, but it wasn't actually brave because, I mean, it felt like a sort of part of me that was doing it, and then oddly, you know, I would be with him in his house or the pub, a local pub in Dundalk with him, and then suddenly this other part of me would come in, like the normal everyday part, the part of him here now, and I would think, what am I doing here? What am I doing? And I would think, well, I'm a journalist, and then I would think, but you shouldn't be in one of their pubs. It's not what journalists do. And I'd be having this conversation with myself, and I'd be saying, you know, you need to get out of here. And there were quite a few times when I was with him where I would get hugely paranoid because I'd come back into my normal state of mind and was thinking, what am I doing? Was something like this, you're not supposed to get very close to them, it's crazy, they could at any time just kill you. So it was like something was triggered that was easily controlled, that wasn't fearful, that wasn't my everyday self, that, you know, because...
You were switching authors for sure.
Yeah, an altar. And sadly, that, you know, that part isn't around anymore. It's gone, and it's been gone for quite a few years now, and it's like weird and quite horrible to have known a life where you've got that part of you and to be sort of like grounded and, you know, not have that part of you. It feels like weird, you know?
Yeah, but, and I don't know, because this is your experience and not mine, but I'm telling you, it's still there. Your beauty is still there. You know, just the whole thing, it's the whole package, you know, it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, you often think, you know, I sometimes think, you know, people say things about me, oh, you're controlled by Juno, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that old man is capable of controlling anything. He might have, in his day, added to research with the kind of thing, but there are far more powerful people than him out there doing, running assets, so to speak. But there is a part of me that thinks, you know, if somebody did come in and did start running me again, would I feel pleased to be a powerful piece on the chessboard of life? You know, there's something horrible and dead just to be one of the sheep and to be not doing anything, you know?
Yes, right. I feel like there's just a few little tweaks of the knob, you know, to put you in the position where you want to be. That's just a feeling that I get, and I mean, just the fact that we're doing this interview right now, and all your you know, viewers and listeners worldwide, you know, there's your testimony is relevant, you know, more so than ever, really, right now.
Yeah, I do feel pretty useless though, you know, it did feel good, even though I wasn't doing stuff to my own agenda, clearly. I didn't get anything out of it. I did get my byline in the Sunday Times a lot, but I certainly got talked about in Northern Ireland, like, oh, you're a bit close to the Real IRA, they didn't know the half of it, you know, and you know, you feel a bit, you do feel like a piece of old tissue cast away, you know, and there's a certain amount of anger, you know, I mean, I live in poverty, basically. There's a certain amount of, you know, doing all that, where was the paycheck, and, you know, and you see how easily I mean, I was reading about Pottery Cottage murders. Somebody's gone and done, a woman I don't like very much. She's done a story about the Pottery Cottage murders. A boy called Billy Hughes, who went on the run from prison, went into a farmhouse, killed the whole family except for the wife, and then got shot by the police. Now, I knew for years and years that he was, without knowing what mind control was, I knew there was something about those murders that meant that he wasn't culpable of what he did. The same with the serial killers that I visited. And I just read the biography of him today, and I didn't know it. I didn't know this about him. But he came from a military family. He came from a military family, was taken to Hong Kong. His father was tied in the army. Then when he came back, he basically started, trying to kill himself, basically attacking. And I believe he was someone that was experimented on because, all these things that they do, these serial killers, and, part of it is a sacrifice to, to these beings, the killing, and the other part is just seeing, controlling them to do these terrible things.
Absolutely, and there's another aspect to it I firmly believe, because all serial killers are controlled by alphabet agencies, in my opinion, and some assassinations that are done by these alphabet agencies are blamed on the serial killer. For instance, Henry Lee Lucas confessed to more murders than he did, for sure. Mm-hmm. And there was probably some political or corporate, connected high-level murders that that he took the blame for. That were that's another function of these serial killers.
Yeah, and of course there's always torture involved, and there's always these Joseph Mengele type torturing and gassing and bleaching and injecting, like Bianchi, who I met, he injected bleach, he gassed, and stuff that Mengele does. And when I spoke to Fritz Springmeier about the mind control programs, he said that Mengele inserted himself inside the programs. So a lot of these men that are running the programs, they start acting out like Mengele, because actually that Mengele program is inserted into them. And people are like, oh, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And then they come out with this. You get all these crime writers, and then they come out with this shit like, well, they're sadists and all this, but it doesn't explain it, and it's just nonsense, absolute nonsense. And it also serves a purpose that the public think, oh, that's what evil is. They don't look to the governments, and they don't think, oh, the evil described in the Bible is the governments and the people in control of the world. They're like, oh, evil is serial killers, and evil is, people that do these bad things. And then these crime writers sort of bum it up a bit. So Billy Hughes is so evil, when he's some mind-controlled individual that, slayed a whole family and tried to cut his own neck. I mean, clearly, he's a mind-controlled individual. They get shot in the head by the cops, or if it's in America, they end up with a death penalty like Danny Rollins, and so they can't really see what's going on with them, and nobody really checks them out. Nobody bothers. I mean, like Ken Bianchi, who I went to see, that man has never been near a psychiatrist or a therapist. I mean, what the hell? I mean, he's completely altered up. And then you get crime writers, and I like Chris Berry, but he wrote about him, and he said, oh, the alters thing, that wasn't true, but it is true. I watched his alters on YouTube, and you could just smell that they were different people, completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's incomprehensible.
Yeah. So when we see what's going on the chessboard, and we know that it's controlled by these other beings, and then a lot of times they're Draco. I mean, when I used to talk with Max sometimes on my radio show, I had this being, and he looked like this actor. He looked like Sam Elliott, the actor. He used to come up inside my mind, and then he used to reach for my throat and try and squeeze it, and then he used to turn into a Draco reptilian, a black feathery winged Draco. And Max used to get the same thing, that somebody going at his throat. I mean, whatever Max was, he was something connected, something important. Of course, then you got bumped off like the way he did, which was horrible,
Yeah, it's the whole Max Spears thing, and and he somehow maybe felt he was shielding somebody, his girlfriend, or in some ways must have known he was walking into a trap, but then he didn't. And then this guy from Poland, and I was going to have him on my show. Actually, he's kind of a scary guy too. It's just a mystery.
Who? Oh, you were going to have Max on?
Well, the guy that interviewed Max, the Polish guy.
Oh, that guy. He's suspicious, isn't he?
Yeah, and I had been in contact with him, and he was going to be on my show. He was going to do an interview, and then he had to decline at the last minute because he was in court.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I wonder what he was in court for. But that guy for sure. He's in a secret society. I guarantee you that. And,
I know, and one has to look at Miles. I mean, I'm not slagging off Miles, but Miles lured Max to a house in London where he met Sverdlow. Max spoke to Sverdlow and said, I'm suffering from depression, I'm upset. And Sverdlow says, well, I can help you come off to Poland and, stay in one of my houses. So it was Miles that lured him to Poland, and then of course they went out on this speaking thing. Max got left behind, and then of course it was Miles that went to the cops after James spoke at bases at the barge, saying he was dangerous, and and next thing there he is in prison. So I have to look at Kerry and Miles and think to myself, what are they doing out there? Is it sort of
Well,
I don't know.
I've looked at these things, and I've heard some different allegations and stuff like that. And Miles is good as gold, in my book. And I've recently had confirmation from a psychic who's one of the strongest psychics in America, who's actually right here in this house right now. And their impression of Miles is that they get a really good feeling about Miles. The thing I worry about with Miles is it's just wondering if he has enough protection, spiritually, for all these, voodoos and hexes and stuff that he's up against some pretty tough stuff. Terry Cassidy, I don't know. I've heard some allegations and stuff like this. Swordlow, I've got a different opinion about him now than I used to have several years ago. I'm actually a member of one of his little deal. I'm not really a paying member, but I used to watch all of his shows with him and his wife Janet, and my opinion about him is a little bit different than it used to be, and it's just kind of hard to navigate these murky waters.
Yeah, it is strange, but I just think that the truth community has had a lot of sort of, dark smoke blown in it, and I think it's made it impossible to do proper research. And I think there's a lot of people that come forward that sort of putting out rubbish, and I do find it hard with Kerry. I look, and the same thing with that other guy, the Leap Project. I like the titles of their shows, and I go to tune in, but it just seems like loads and loads of waffle,
Who are you talking about?
Well, Kerry is, I can't watch her, I just can't, it waffles away, and I almost think she puts some kind of vibration over the guest, and you can't listen to them. That is what I feel, and so I just can't listen, and then I can't listen to the guest, where I think I should. And then the Leap Project, he does something else as well that's weird. He does the little boy thing, and then next thing, I don't know. What do you think of him?
Okay, fascinating that you would bring him up, and you're talking about Rex Bear, who used to live in Texas, right over here in San Antonio, my neighbor, and actually me getting my foot in the truther community actually had a lot to do with that, because I was interviewed by the Leap Project, and that video now has over 50,000 views. So it's really, actually even more than that, but it's really my biggest exposure, and I did kind of come up, that was my very first interview, and yeah, I had expressed an interest to this person I was telling you about that as a, they don't like the word psychic, but an empath healer, kind of like what you are, And I expressed an interest in, well, maybe I ought to, look up Rex Berrigan, maybe get on his show, and they advised against it. And then there's some people that think that he's kind of on some kind of, like you say, there's some kind of vibe, going on. I kind of see it, I kind of don't. I mean, I really see it like James Rink, his show. It's like, what the hell is this? The Super Soldier show, and he has these guests on, he builds them up and everything, then they get on there and he's like attacking them, and it's just, he has all these controllers, handlers, it seems like. Yeah, I mean, that you get to a certain point in this community, in this truther community, and things get dicey.
Yeah, they do. You can make enemies quickly, and Chinese whispers. I've made some enemies. I think I have to look at, I do have a bad temper, and I sort of can react really quickly. I've changed over time. I don't react. If a woman has a go at me, I don't automatically, jump down their throat anymore. So that's not really connected. But I think if you do argue with somebody, there are people out there that are willing to sort of drag your name through the mud as sort of revenge, and then sort of, decide that you're one of the bad guys, and then sort of whenever they'll sort of, put you out there as one of the bad guys, which,
Absolutely, and there's a price to that. There's a person that I kind of made some disparaging remarks about it. I'm not going to mention her name because I made a deal with Taj that I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? And so they're, they leave me alone, I'll leave them alone. But yeah, there's stuff happens.
Yeah, I try not to do that myself. I try not to sort of speak bad. I mean, I was speaking bad just now about Kerry Cassidy, but I mean, she's kind of basically ignored me whenever I've spoken to her. So, you kind of think, why are they ignoring me? But, I'm not being catty. I do, sometimes see her videos and think, I want to see that. And then I turn it on, and then she puts out some kind of vibe that makes me unable to listen to it. And I've heard other people say that, listen, because of some kind of vibe, and I don't know what it is.
I don't watch the show for some reason. I don't know if it's her delivery or what it is about it, but it's weird. There's just shows I watch and ones I don't,
Yeah, and it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, because people like Alex Collier, he's disappeared. Robert Stanley, I interviewed him. He's okay, but you kind of think, how does he know who he's talking to is actually Enki? I mean, it would be interesting to speak to somebody who has spoken to Enki. Is Enki in control of what's happening right now? We don't know. I mean, he said to me when he was on my show that Enki wants to upgrade his people. Now, that kind of links with they're culling off the older people. They're culling off people that aren't very strong physically, and getting rid of some of them. Maybe it will be even more and more and more. Maybe that's going on right now. And also anybody that can't handle that we're being in a police state, they can probably go off and kill themselves. There's already been a few suicides, so they maybe they're culling and leaving the rest of us, and then hoping to upgrade us in some kind of way. I don't know. I can see it becoming a harsher society. But Robert Stanley, I mean, I'm sure he's a nice person, but how do you really know that he's talking to Enki? You don't really know. So it's hard to find people that can. I don't believe in all these people that are channeling Palladians. They kind of make me want to throw up. I mean, I just don't go.
They write books and all this stuff. Yeah, so the Enki Enlil narrative, that's another one I'm suspicious of, just like the Anunnaki narrative I'm suspicious of.